Hello and welcome to another episode of Refleksjonsrommet. Today is a special moment because we're introducing something new. From now on, whenever we do episodes in English, we shall always call it the Reflection Room. This is our way of opening the podcast to a wider international audience and guests while keeping the same spirit of deep, thoughtful conversations. And today's guest is the perfect person to mark this transition. I'm joined by Lusy Biggers, someone with a truly fascinating journey. She started off as a passionate climate activist and became a prominent voice in the environmental storytelling, and eventually shifted her focus towards media accountability and freedom of the press. Today she works for the Free Press, where her work challenges some of the dominant narratives in culture, politics, and activism, and I think that you'll find her perspective eye-opening and refreshingly honest. Let's welcome Lusy Biggers to the Reflection Room.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I've been watching your content on most of the social networks, and I thought this would be a perfect guest for Reflection Room.
I'm excited.
And yeah, could you start by just telling a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, so my name's Lusy Biggers. I work for the Free Press, like you said. So my full-time job, I am the head of social media for the Free Press, which is a news startup that was started by Barry Weiss, who's a prominent figure here in the States. I don't know, not quite a household name, but if you know her, you know her. And so I joined 3 years ago here at the Free Press. And then before I got to the Free Press in my 20s, half of my 20s, I was a climate activist. And so I covered the climate narrative very unquestioningly in my 20s, always trying to lower my carbon footprint, avoid plastic, meat. I cared about, every mile of gas or tank of gas, you fill up with your car. And then by the time I was about 30, I started to see some cracks in the narrative of the climate movement, mainly that, you know, the extreme weather that we have been told was supposed to ruin the planet by the time I was, whatever, 30, it wasn't really panning out. So I started to
Yeah.
just sort of question things and seek out alternative views. And then I I had been so this is now in my 20s. I was an influencer, but then I kind of went radio silent. I did stopped posting, then got this job at the Free Press, and then this past year, since about the spring, I started to post again with my newly held beliefs, which are a lot more skeptical of the mainstream climate movement narrative, like you said.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah, I'm kind of like this hybrid. I obviously have a full-time job, but I'm now trying to make this movement, this content, because I think it's really important for the public good that young people are just not afraid of climate change, because while it's happening, and we can go, obviously, I think we'll go into this a bit more, while it is happening, there's a lot of really compelling evidence that extreme weather is not getting worse, that we're safer than ever from extreme weather, so less people are dying, and that also some of the proposed solutions from the climate movement, so the renewable energy stuff, has a lot of downsides
Mm.
that the mainstream conventional wisdom does not cover. And so I'm trying to get the word out a bit more in my free time and have conversations like this.
That is perfect. And I'm also a dad, so I really want to try to make sure that the kids growing up won't have climate anxiety,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because as you say, when you dig down to the data, you can see that there's never been a better place to live than now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, could you maybe take some facts that really changed your mind? This episode is brought to you by K33. If you want clear, data-driven insights into Bitcoin, crypto markets, and digital assets, K33 delivers world-class research without the hype. Whether you're an investor, a builder, or simply crypto curious, K33 gives you the analysis you need to stay ahead. K33 is also the premium exchange for those who want to invest a larger amount with the security, discretion, and professional support that you need. If you are looking for a reliable partner in the digital asset space, K33 has you covered. Visit k33.com to learn more.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I think the first fact that I thought about, this is going back now to 2020. I would say 2020 is when I
Okay.
started to question it, but I didn't post again. Like, I didn't come out of the closet ideologically until this year. So, but I go back to 2020. Um, I started to look at the fact that deaths from natural disasters are at all-time
Mm.
lows. So the stats kind of vary from 96% to 98% to 99% down over the last 100 years. But it really doesn't matter the percentage that's down. It's just to know that all-time lows. And that's because humans are more developed and wealthy than ever
Mm.
before. So just to give a very specific example, if there were to be a storm and flooding, if you live in a shack with a tin roof and no foundation in a village in South America or Africa or Asia, and there's a storm that comes, your entire home could be washed away in a flood. You could be washed away in a flood.
Mm.
And in the West, in Europe, in the US, and then other developed countries, you have a foundation, you have more sturdy building. And so when a flood comes, you're going to be a lot safer. You're not going to lose everything. Your life will not be in danger. We obviously have very awful outlier situations where there will be
Of
people who
course.
die in flooding. We had a really bad incident here in Texas and the US this summer. But when those events happen, the media tends to run away with this narrative that this is because of
Mm.
climate change. And there's a lot of fear mongering and sort of surface level reporting on it where
Mm.
it's not very quality reporting, but this general narrative is, oh, well, it's because of climate change. But when, like you said, when you dig into the data, the actual trends over the past 30 years show that these things like flooding, hurricanes, droughts, tornadoes, basically anything, wildfires, anything you could think of that you would be afraid of, either the rates have either stayed steady or they have gone down, actually, which is so interesting because of our adaptability. We're putting out more wildfires globally than we used to, or even there's research that because we have more CO2 in the atmosphere, and the planet is warmer, that there could be some influences on extreme weather that's making them less common, like hurricanes, for
Mm.
example. The rates of hurricanes have gone down. And so that's like sort of emerging science. But all of this is to say the mainstream black and white narrative around climate change is very clear, right? That what is the message? The message is climate change is happening, it's humans' fault, and it's dangerous. And the
And you
space that
need to
yeah, and so you need to do
get the.
X, Y, and Z, pay
Mm.
more taxes, well,
Mm.
you give up some freedoms, which we can get into. But
Yeah, of
my
course.
my stance is climate change is happening. We know we've seen a 1.2 or 3 degrees of warming since the 1850, Celsius,
Mm.
1.3 degrees. So the planet is warming. We're adding CO2 to the atmosphere, we know that. But where the scientists there's no consensus is how much we're impacting it,
Mm.
how much our actions can even prevent it, right? We can our actions really even cool the planet if we tried?
Yeah,
And
and do we even want to
and
cool
do
the
we
planet?
well, we don't.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think
So
so either.
yeah.
But and then finally also, um, is it dangerous? And
Mm.
I would say there's overwhelming evidence that it's not dangerous for us because of how humans are so adaptable. We're so good. The more wealth that we have,
Mm.
the better we are at adapting. And so where I come down on this is let's get more people to be more wealthy
Mm.
versus punishing the wealthy and saying consume less because it's somehow our fault that the weather's changing. Let's get everybody up to our level so we have less people dying in the more vulnerable areas like Africa and Asia that are underdeveloped still.
Yeah, and I think that is a really good perspective. And one of the problems that I have with this climate activism is that you also always are going to have to pay more taxes, more
Right.
regulations. And with no clear evidence of that money will go to anything good.
Exactly. And then you look at places like China, and there's some viral
Mm.
charts that go out that's China's carbon emissions versus Europe. And Europe and the
Mm.
US's carbon emissions nationally have been going down. And China's is about increased, 10
Mm.
times in the
Yeah.
last 100 years. And so this idea that Europe which even more because, Americans were crazy over here. So we've had sort of stubborn
Sure.
leaders. We have that American frontier vibe. So we did not go as full on into the climate transition as, Europe did. And what
I think
I
Europe
think,
went harder, and
and
maybe especially Germany.
yeah, and they're paying the price because
Yeah.
industry is going down. And so this idea that Germany and all these places should decarbonize for the future of the planet
Mm.
when then their jobs and industry are just getting exported to China, which has a worse environmental footprint and
Mm.
worse carbon emissions. So really any way that you look at the climate movement, when you really start to learn it and you get past the group think on this and past the fear, I've found that everything from the top down of whether it's it's our fault, whether it's dangerous, and even the solutions, they're all kind of really bad. And I
Mm.
always say, like, I don't wanna live in a world where the climate movement wins because that would be rationing of energy, cost
Mm.
of living through the roof, less choice, less freedom, it's a national security risk.
Mm.
And so even if you were to concede, like, it is our fault that it's getting warmer and CO2 really is, the planet, I still would say I don't want the climate movement solutions.
No, they have this way of thinking that is really totalitarian. You
Mm.
have to obey, you have to pay the price, you have to
Mhm.
sacrifice. I think there is a religious vibe that I don't
Mhm.
like.
Mhm.
In Norway and Europe, we have been battling a religion in another way that probably you Americans have, but I think that we want to have religion, but like this, not right in our faces. And we
Mhm.
want to have freedom, and we have to want to have freedom of choice.
Mhm.
And then we can't be told what to do all the time.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're right on the nose there. And is I think that the atheism levels in Europe are really high too. What is it, like
Mm.
10 what percent of the population now? I think I saw a statistic, it was like 10% of Europe or something identifies as Christian. And so I think
Yeah.
what's happened is people have taken on this worldview. They've replaced Christianity with this worldview because they want to do good in the world, la la la. But
Mm.
following the movement in that ideology to its logical conclusion is so destructive.
Yeah. It's actually, I think that the Christianity religion is actually on the rise. I think that people
Oh, it
are
is good.
searching for meaning. I think we haven't found it in atheism. We haven't found it, at least not in Islam, that also is on the rise in Europe.
Right.
But I think that the good thing about Christianity is that they promote freedom of choice, and it's not that
Yeah.
hard on the way that you have to live your life, and it's more inclusive than others.
I know, it's like live and let live. It doesn't force you to change anything. It has such a bad reputation, but we're
Mm.
seeing, I think because historically, probably our parents' generation, the church had more power and it did have issues,
Mm.
and so people moved away from it, but I think the church in its current form is really, great, uh, I think there's a lot of parallels or it props up Western values really well. Christianity, but unfortunately, people are so traumatized by it, or maybe they're falling for propaganda that they hate it. They think somehow Christianity is more oppressive than like Islam, but that's just like
Yeah,
Western people being very naive.
yeah, I think so. I think that you shouldn't look at Islam too long before you see that it's more totalitarian than the
Yeah.
Christians. But okay, I was also wanting to talk to you about what kind of powers lies in this climate activism. How powerful are
Mm,
the narratives, and what kind of issues do we have to fight?
yeah. So I think that the sort of popularity in the culture and the trend of the climate movement that we saw in the 2018, where,
Mm.
everyone was sort of putting Greta Thunberg up on this pedestal, and there was a lot of talk about the Green New Deal here in the US, and
Mm.
it was sort of like what we saw with pro-Palestine protests this last 2 years. That was sort of the
Mm.
climate movement in the 2010s. So I think that that has died down and the activists have moved on, and there's
Mm.
some good, things happening with you see Bill Gates saying, "Hey, listen, climate
Mm.
change is not world ending." So that's a really good out like development, I would say. However,
I
I
think,
do
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I think that is a crucial step actually, because he's been very prominent in saying it's existential threat. I think that he and Antonio Gutierrez has been very strong forces, and the fact that Bill now is changing his mind and changing his tunes, it will have big impacts. And
I think so.
at least I hope, but how fast and what way, I'm not so sure yet.
Right, and that's the thing is I think that the culture and the conversation is sort of moderating, but then you have a lot of institutionalized powers that are really enmeshed now in our politics, in our investing, in our schools. And so the climate movement sort of has its tentacles have already gotten in really
It's
deep.
deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, like, I don't even know my kids are still very young, they're almost 2 and almost 4, so they're not in an age where they would be taught this, but many people in the US the kids are still being taught really fearful narratives around climate change, like, in their schools, like, which is one thing that I would really wanna counter. And just seeing, like, you know, how people interact with my content, you know, you have the people who are like, obviously, like, what you're saying makes so much sense and they're open to it. And then you have people who think, like, I'm a misinformation spreader and that what I'm saying is very dangerous. And so there's such a gradient of where people live on this. And I think one thing that I'm very interested in too is the mindset of just the average person in the modern world, whether it's Europe or the US or Australia or these places. What do they think? Even if they've never been to a climate march, even if they've never picked up a book on this, they have a subconsciously held belief based on how the news covers this and how social media covers this, that the planet is dying or burning or whatever. They have these false subconscious beliefs
Yes.
that they might not even be aware of, that they're like, well, the planet's going to be destroyed in 10 years, whatever. So like, I think there's like, even if you never even cared about this topic, it's sort of like common knowledge. Well, of course we all know the planet's burning, you know? And so that's one thing that I'm really passionate about changing
Yeah.
is
I think
saying, yeah,
I think this the fact that the world is burning is actually one of
yeah,
those that is really sticked, because so you can
yeah,
see all the great footage on TV,
right.
the fires in Canada, the fires in Europe. But is there more wildfires now than before?
No, down. So wildfires are down globally by 25% since the 1980s, I believe is the correct statistic.
25%.
Yeah. So they're down. And it's funny because you always
I would thought they would be doubled.
oh, the amount?
Yeah, the amount, because of the
That's
coverage in the media.
right, because of the coverage of the media, and also there are more people living in fire-prone areas, and so when you
Good
have
stuff. Yeah.
what happened in Los Angeles with the Palisades, when you have in Australia, those are places that historically their ecosystems would burn every year. There's reports of in California here when we had Western explorers first going to California, you know, the skyline would be filled with smoke every year because the Native Americans would do controlled burns to manage that
Contain.
land.
Yeah.
And then what happened in the US, and this has been repeated in other places, is that we moved into those areas. We didn't know about that practice. And also, why would we do that? Because that's just not what we would do, burn the land every year, is that we just started building houses in these areas that become tinderboxes. And so you've had these very public, very visible fires. And then what happened as well is that we suppressed a lot of the fires that would start. We would suppress them for many years very well. And so over the years, you would build up a fuel, which could have been cleared out by a smaller fire. And so now when the fires happen, they're stronger and bigger. There's more destruction. And then it doesn't help that there's social media. And so it's sort of the imagery that the climate alarmists will use now is fires, but it's a very loose connection because wildfires always happened. It's not like they're
Yeah.
a thing that started because of climate change. It's just that we document them better, but we used to be really bad at putting out wildfires. Like in the 1800s and 1930s when we were not as developed as we are now, especially in the western part of the US. If there was a wildfire from, like, say, a cook fire of settlers or hunters or whatever it is in like the 1800s, and the conditions were right, like windy, dry, there was one fire that was called the Peshtigo fire that was in the Midwest, and it burned the size of the state of Rhode Island. but like you don't really know about that because we weren't alive, so we have a short history memory. But yeah, fires are going down. So good news. We've got a lot of good news.
Yeah, actually, behind me here I have the book of Rosling, Factfulness. I read that with highly interest because it's refreshingly to hear someone say, relax, it's going to be okay. There's no worries. About these fires, I've heard rumors also that almost what you said, that how would you say it?
Conditions?
Conditions, yeah, for the wildfires has been very high, and we probably knew that it was high, but it hasn't been cleared out. Is it anything to this?
So, well, with like the California wildfires that we
Yes.
had, so that one, I think, there was a lot. I mean, California is very badly managed, and they had endangered species that they were protecting, so they didn't clear the shrubs they were supposed to clear. That one was also started by an arson they discovered.
Yeah.
So somebody just intentionally lit it, and it's really actually like a weapon of mass destruction to a degree because you could have somebody with a match basically on good fire conditions now knows that they can destroy property. And we have this nihilism that we live in. So it is really sad that people have that mindset. But the condition stuff, I think the climate scientists will say, like, the conditions for the possibility for the wildfires in the future have gone up, right? So they can't really point to wildfires getting worse, but they'll say, but the conditions are, 75% longer, which is also like, you can fudge it. Like, what does that even mean? What really matters is the real world on the ground wildfire stuff. And I think this is a theme, is that when you blame everything on climate change, you miss an opportunity to solve problems and prevent tragedy in the same way that you shouldn't blame every issue in the world on racism or on the billionaires, right? Like a lot of these problems that we're facing, there are real world solutions, but we're so obsessed with this ideology in the case of climate change where it's all about our carbon emissions that we'd rather put in more solar panels and more wind turbines to make ourselves feel better when really clearing brush and having the reservoirs full of water and having people have sprinkler systems on their roof would prevent these things. And putting trillions of dollars into renewable energy projects is not going to prevent a wildfire because wildfires can happen regardless, even if we were to lower our carbon emissions.
Yeah, even if it's not even arson, so the lightning can struck also, so it's
exactly,
it can happen anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the clarification. I've been actually wondering about that. So, but now you work as a journalist?
Yeah, so I actually don't work as a journalist. I'm the head of social media for the Free Press. And then anytime I do something that's between the Free Press and I put on my journalism hat. But I am not technically like a writer on staff. I just run all the social media. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think the traction is going for you with your kind of content now versus what you had before? Is it easier to get go viral, or is it harder, or is it more? Yeah, what's the landscape?
It's been going really well because I think that this message that I'm sharing is really needed because I think a lot of people are really afraid for their futures and they're afraid for the planet or for their kids. And I think I can speak from a very authentic place, having been part of the climate movement in the past and the story of just changing my mind. So my following since I started making content on this topic in May, so it hasn't even been 6 months. It's about close to it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
I doubled my following on my platforms that I'm on, and then I have gotten around 5 million views or more on the videos that I've made. So I think that there is a huge audience for this. The one that went really viral was I talked to people at a climate march who had climate anxiety and showed them some of these like more grounding facts. And that did really well. I think that has like just 2 million views on Instagram alone. And that's not even counting what it did on TikTok and Twitter and all those places. So it's doing really well. And I think obviously you have people who think everything I'm saying is a lie and think I'm a shill for the fossil fuel industry or whatever. but
Do you
more
have any ties
often.
to the fossil fuel industry?
No, I don't. I
No.
don't. I
Okay.
really
Yeah.
like the fossil fuel industry. Like, I really like fossil fuels as a technology. And so I think when I unabashedly say, like, I love fossil fuels, people are like, why is she saying this? But I'm
Yeah.
saying
It can be
it.
looked at as a little bit of a provocation.
No, it is a 100%. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's like you have to think about in the age of social media, how do you break through? How do you get people to
Yeah.
listen to you? And saying, something like, I love fossil fuels or I'm thankful for fossil fuels.
It's a great
It's just,
hook.
it is a great hook. And for certain people, it's a very triggering statement, I guess you could say. But I truly think that fossil fuels are such an important technology, and the amount that they get demonized by our culture and our education system and our legal system, it's really hurts all of us because it just makes our fuel more expensive. And I think we need more fossil fuels. We need more fossil fuels in developing countries where women still have to spend a lot of their time collecting wood and water. And so to me, it's a human rights issue. And if you dig into the physics and economics of solar and wind, which everyone touts as these miracles, there's no way that they can replace fossil fuels in any measure. And so we really are with fossil fuels right now. Not that we're stuck with them because I think that they're great, but the idea that we can't keep using them because of some artificial cutoffs about the temperature and all these things, I just don't buy into it.
No, I think you're right. And if we were to pursue alternative energy sources, I think that it's nuclear and fossil
Yes,
fuels.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't
This
know a lot. I
solar
don't know
and
a
wind
ton
is
about it. Yeah, solar and wind makes no sense. I don't know a ton about nuclear. If you have any resources I should read because I kind of know the bare bones of it, and I'm that's on my list to sort of dig in more. But I know that the history of the nuclear programs. I mean, in Europe, they were shutting down plants in Germany, which was such a crime. I hope that can they
Yeah.
reopen them?
No, they
Why not?
blew them up. Yeah, they just blew them up.
No,
Can I tell you a story about Germany and myself?
they blew them up.
Yes.
Wow, that is so sad. Okay, what were we gonna say?
During my upbringing, I had a father. He loved to go skiing, and we were living in Norway. But still, the Alps in Austria, they have better skiing possibilities than us. And his dream was to show us the Alps. So every year since I was 14, we drove through all of Europe from Norway, through Sweden, Denmark, Germany to Austria. And by the time I was 25 or something, our economics was better, so we started flying. So I didn't drive through Germany for maybe 15 years. And then after the pandemic, the flight prices just skyrocketed.
Right.
And I said to my family, no, we'll do it like we did in the old days. We'll just drive.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recognize Germany. It was black all the way. All the way through the Autobahn, there are now black hills of solar panels.
No power? Oh.
Mm.
Also,
Yeah,
why would you ever build solar panels in Germany?
It's strange. It's so delusional. It's delusional.
So delusional. Oh. See, that's the downsides that I think people don't understand. They're like, just why can't you let it happen? I'm like, because this is actually going to be worse for the environment, worse for humans, worse for our livelihoods and abilities to live thriving lives. And so the amount of money that's this grift almost, this transition of wealth from industries that worked to these industries that don't work, all in the name of climate change is like so disastrous. I hope that they're like waking
right
up
now
to
it's yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure. Right now they're using most of our water energy from Norway because so our energy bills in Norway has skyrocketed also because now we're selling our powers our electricity to Germany. So it's some places in Norway now there is extremely expensive to use electricity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
I think this that way of thinking is really bad. I hope that we will start to have energy that we can depend on when we need it. And I've had some episode in Norwegian for those Norwegian listeners. I recommend all three of them. with Norwegian eyes, I think the best one is about thorium, because we have a lot of thorium in Norway. So we should actually do our due diligence there and maybe use that one. But in Norway, we are...
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, in Norway, we are really lucky because we have so much energy. There is all our air energy, we can just use it, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think Germany has much bigger problems. England, France,
because you have more natural resources that you can use.
Yeah, so much more. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and we have so much oil and so much water and hydro, and also if we would need it, we could also have nuclear.
Yeah, I know. I've heard about thorium, and that you're the second person that's brought that up, and it sounds really promising. But again, there's so many loophole, red tape, and there's so much lack of common sense and bureaucracy and very stupid policies right now.
A lot of the politicians running in Europe now, they remember in 1986 when Chernobyl blew up. So I'm actually born right before Chernobyl. So it's been there all my life. But I think that now it's just be brave and see and do it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so that's energy. But the freedom of media. Do we have freedom in the media landscape today?
Yeah, I think...
Since you're working for the free press.
Yeah, well, the free press has been such a light in a dark world. Yes, so I came from a very left-wing newsroom, and so I would say in the US, we have freedom of the press where you can publish stuff. There's not a lot of regulations on that, but it's all about the echo chamber that you're in. And so there's certain, even when I was at my last company and I was very left wing, I never even considered the ideas that I'm saying because I dismissed them out of hand as misinformation, as like fossil fuel shills or conservative propaganda. And so we have freedom of the press, and especially I think the free press where I work has become a really good focal point for our news system.
Okay, good.
It doesn't change the fact that everybody has different echo chambers, and so where they're getting their news, like some of our mainstream sources, like the New York Times, for example, and some of our cable are very, very biased and very left-wing and so dishonest in how they cover things, which we saw, in COVID and how they cover the climate. And so we have flawed, newsrooms. We have flawed people, but we do have freedom of the press in the U.S. And we don't have we don't have the same like censorship that you see in, Europe.
In Europe. Now, Europe right now is starting to become maybe a little bit scary, actually, with the new hate crimes the hate laws in Germany, in England is, I can't even fathom why we should have it like this. In Norway, we are not, we are spared. We have a lot of traditional mainstream media here also, but the podcasts and alternative views are big also. So I think that we do pride ourselves on being a little bit grown, that we can make our own decisions, but still the green wave has been here, but I think maybe it's falling a little bit behind right now. So it will be interesting to see when the pendulum swings, how far it will go back and what will happen. It's I'm afraid for Germany and England, actually.
Yeah. I mean, England, I'm seeing, right, they arrest so many people every day for social media posts.
Yeah, retweets.
And retweets. It's so bad. It's such a it's such a chilling effect on the populace too, where the risk of speaking out is so high. So I can only imagine. I feel so awful for them. I mean, in the US, we're just it's such a different culture. We're like, we're so far afield that people can say anything, but you'd rather have it that way. Let everyone say everything because the alternative of the censorship is not okay.
Yeah. it's a little bit fun to look at all you crazy people also, so it's good for us.
We're glad to be entertaining for the world.
But with Hollywood and all your history, it's been entertaining for a while. So right now it's probably most about your politics, but yeah. Let's see. What do you think about the illusions in with all the free things that we will get through? The green deals and is it everything free or?
Yeah, everything's free. You didn't know?
I didn't know.
You know, it's really hard. Yeah, there's so much delusion and again, going back to sort of these common misconceptions and common knowledge that are so wrong. And we see it here with the mayor who just got elected in New York is this socialist. And he said free rent, free groceries, free buses, and said all this free stuff. And it was a really catchy campaign and it worked. And he got elected. And I think we're losing, if you're more of a capitalist, libertarian, sort of a personal, I'm more of a personal responsibility person. It's really hard to counter that narrative because it's just such a sticky thing. And there is so much inequality in the world, right? Like the problems are real. And unfortunately, the solutions that people are proposing when they propose free are going to make the problems worse. And so even in New York, where they're saying everything's so unaffordable, it's been under left-wing leadership for the past 25 years. So when you say it's so unaffordable, it's been a blue mayor, a blue state senate, like it's been everything has been blue, and it created the unaffordability crisis because of things like rent control that we already have and all of this red tape that anyone has to go through to build. And so there's even worse bills making their way through New York right now, and they're all feel good.
Yeah, I think this it should almost be illegal to say that the things that the state provides is free because it's tax paid.
Right,
it's
of
not
course.
free.
Yeah, it's not. So it's just taking wealth from someone.
Yeah, you're not talking truthfully, actually.
Right. How socialist is Norway?
Way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is free here.
Yeah. But is it good? Is it good?
I think the biggest difference about Norway and a lot of places in America is that we are such a small population.
Right.
We are like 5 million people. It's much easier to control 5 million people, and the trust between 5 million people in the same country is easier to manage. So
it makes
sense. I think that is a big difference. I think that we've had. Right now we have a socialist government.
Are you guys letting in a lot of immigration? Like, is that not really?
In between. We are not extreme. Sweden, our neighbors, they have been extreme. They have a lot of problems right now. They're the most dangerous Western country in the world, I think. So that is crazy. I think it was in the summer. I think they had bombings every day for the whole year, including shootings, kidnappings, killings. Yeah, so right now there's a huge problem. They've just elected their first
conservative. Because they're like, wait, maybe we should fix this.
Yeah. For the Americans, he has the largest party, but he didn't get elected prime minister. I don't think the Swedes are ready for going that far anyway. And anytime soon, but let's see, maybe.
Yeah.
The most far-right party in Norway also became the biggest party in Norway this election. So there is a right-wing conservative in
it's more
Norway
nationalist.
Also.
It's just nationalist,
Yeah, a little bit more like that.
I saw someone made a video that really resonated with me, which was how through the history, you always have a movement and then a counter movement, and you'll have like the Renaissance, and then it's like, I mean, I'm not a historian, like off the top of my head, I'm going to butcher this, but this idea that you have the Renaissance or the Enlightenment, but then you have like postmodernism and like this idea of things going to the extremes, and I think we're coming out of this globalist secular era that is defined my life, right? Where it was sort of the end of history, a global order. We saw the EU, we saw this decline in religion, and we were trying to be a global, citizenship with all the things that are positive about that. And it's an evolution in some ways, but then we're seeing all the downsides. And now we're going toward a nationalist, more traditional. You're seeing the women in America. We have like the trad wife trend, and there's a revival in more tribalism. And so it seems like that's sort of the beginning phases of that, because Europe was sort of always kind of held up as this really great example of, look, you can do a big nanny state and socialism and all these things. But now it's like, well, yeah, you were a homogenous, high trust society, versus in the U.S., we were never able to do that because we're just crazy people over here. And also you don't come to the U.S. for its safety net. You come because you want to work hard and have the American dream.
Yeah, you come for the possibility, not the safety
Yeah,
net.
exactly.
Yeah. All the other Somalis, and they come to Norway, Denmark, Sweden. We will pay for them. It's free here. I think this is very interesting, and I think that maybe the right wing wave is looked at wrong. I think that it's, if you look at it the way that people actually just want to take care of their communities, I think that's
exactly.
what they actually just want. They want to have a safe space for children, for their lives, for their women, and I think that's what we should prosper to do.
And I think going back to the freedom of the press thing is that the people who work in the media are very anti it because they don't get it, because they're very globalist-y elites. And so the way that it's covered, and I see this with how in our country, certain media, like the way that they cover the Trump MAGA movement, I'm not saying everything about it is perfect, but you get a lot of these people being maligned as racists, and they don't want immigration, but really, like you're saying, it's like, no, we just want like rule of law. We want closed borders. Like we want like things that in the 90s were normal, and all of a sudden it went so far that to ask for a closed border was an extreme opinion in 2024. And now it's so funny. We had a few stories that are just coming out where they're trying to spin it in the U.S. So New York Times was like, yeah, Biden, President Biden ignored the border, and like maybe that was a mistake, but like da-da-da. And everyone's like, wait a minute, I thought in 2024 the narrative was there is no border crisis. It's a made up story. And now they move the goalposts, and now it wasn't a made up story. It was just like he did a calculus that like it wasn't worth addressing. And you're like, okay, well, that's why Trump won, because everyone was like, we can see with our own eyes there are millions of people pouring over the border. We don't know who they are. Like, this is a national security threat. But the way that the media would spin it is, oh, well, you just don't like immigrants or people with different color skin. And you're like, no, that's not it. I just don't want illegal people coming into my country. And they could be lovely people, but there are rules.
The most strange thing about this is it's in the first word, it's illegal. And the next one, I can't see the problem. If it's illegal,
exactly.
it's illegal. It's just the first word is illegal.
Yeah.
And, then it's illegal, I think.
And not even to mention the fact that the U.S. takes in, I think it's 2 million legal immigrants a year. We have the most robust legal immigration system. Is it perfect? Of course not. But like, we love immigration here, and I always see on Instagram, videos where you'll have someone who's from Cameroon or they're from Ukraine and they're immigrants, but they say like, listen, like, I did it the legal way. I love America. I came here to work really hard. I didn't want to be in a government assistance. I never was. I married a good husband. I have a great life. And every comment will be like, I'm a conservative and like, I support you. Like, this is the type of immigration that we want. And like, Americans are actually very pro-immigration and pro-immigrant, but it's the culture that the immigrants are bringing, the mindset that they're bringing, like we see with the Somali the Somali scandal and the fraud that happened in Minnesota is it's not about the identity of the person. It's not about the skin color of the person. It's, oh my gosh, you're literally stealing billions from us because you don't think you're American. You're loyal to your clan back
Tribe.
in Somalia.
Yeah. I think that is. We also have problems with the gangs in Norway, and now it's always going back to the clans or clans where they are from. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think that maybe we should finish up this with a little bit facts about the climate, because now we've been
Yes.
fighting
Yeah,
we've been talking about
we went
something
off.
else.
It's all connected.
Yeah, on the tangent, but that is okay. If we should say maybe 3 or 4 things about fighting fear with facts, is there something that you would start with there? What's the most important thing to, if you want to stop being afraid, what should you look at?
So definitely the first one, which I already mentioned, is the fact that deaths from natural disasters are down. So right there, I think that's a really enticing one. So there's a fire truck going by my house. I don't know if you can hear that, but so I would.
Wildfire?
Yeah, wait. I don't think that much would burn right now. It's very cold here, but so yeah, the fact that we're safer than ever, I think that's undeniable. I think that's a very shareable statistics because it doesn't require you to question other things about climate change. You could say, even if you think climate is as bad as the weathermen are saying on TV, we're still safer than ever. So I think that's one I always have in my back pocket. And then digging into just the statistics that we have. And we have to remember this. Climate science is a very new field. It's something that it's in its infancy. We really only have reliable data going back to 1980 when we had satellites. So before that, it's really hard to know global statistics on natural disasters. Even you could even argue up until the year we had good statistics for the U.S., but then for Africa and Asia and all these places, it's really like the clock starts in the year 2000. And so going back to the year 2000, which is now 25 years, which you would say it's like a generational length, and that's sort of the amount that you can measure climate change is like 3 decades. Anything other than that is sort of whatever. Going back to the year 2000, globally, natural disasters are completely steady. So I can make the honest claim that sure, let's go. If you were a climate scientist in the year 2000, Al Gore was the original climate activist here, who was like the name that kind of brought it into the public consciousness. In the year 2000, we did not have that much of a record. So I understand we're putting CO2 in the atmosphere. This is going to change something. This is really scary. It could cause more extreme weather. I can say that that's an honest fear that you could have had in the year 2000. Now in the year 2025, with the information that we do have and looking at the trends of natural disasters, also looking at the trends of global food growth and food, the bounty of food that we have, and the fact that deaths are down, right there you've got 3 things. No more extreme weather, higher food yields than ever, safer populace than ever, most wealth than ever, right? So I mean, right there, what's there to fear? And I mean, I could go on forever because I just want to say too, it's like we've had 1.3 degrees of warming since 1850, and that has coincided with the most prosperous, wealthy, and bountiful time in the history of humanity. So this idea that another 1.3 degrees of warming is going to all of a sudden change that trend, well, the first 1.3 was fine, but now it's going to be the opposite. That doesn't hold up to scrutiny because we have now 100 years to show that humans actually have done really well with the warming planet. Oh my God, I'm on a tear. I have to say something else. And then you look into the geologic record, and so geologists can remap the weather going back hundreds of thousands of years by doing ice samples down into ice cores. And they can look at the geologic record of where humans used to live and what we used to grow. And we have had 2 warming periods that are similar to the period we're in now in the last 2,000 years. One was around when Jesus was born, so like the year 0. It was for a few hundred years, and it was called the Roman warm period. And then there was the medieval warm period, which was around the year 1100. And during this time, Norway was greener than it is now. The Vikings were further up because there was less ice sheets. There's
Yes.
there's archaeological evidence of grapes being grown in the UK at that time. Greenland, that's when Greenland was colonized by Vikings. And then that warm period, when historians used to talk about it, they would call it climate optima because it was the best time for humans to be alive would be these warm periods. So now this idea that this warm period we're in is dangerous goes against what they used to teach, which was that warmer weather was good for us. So anyway, it's all political. It's all like this political push to get us to have less energy, less control over our lives. And like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the end result is not good for us to push this climate stuff.
No, a little bit of fun fact. I have something that I really want to do with my children, and that is going up to our glaciers in Norway, because they are now moving back in the end of the summer. So you can actually find arrows and things from that time, and I really want to find something.
You gotta go.
I want to go treasure hunt. Yeah, I want to go on a treasure hunt.
That's so cool. I love that. I know, it's so funny. You see people be like, Viking developments being revealed by the melting ice. And you're like, wait, I thought this was the warmest it's ever been. How were they there?
This, the warmest it's ever been. I can't believe that they can say it. We have statistics that proves it's not.
They've done such bunk science. I mean, I just spent an entire week reading a book about the hockey stick. I don't know if you know about the hockey stick or how much you know about climate. Yeah. So like the Michael Mann chart that made the weather look like it was all even until 1970 and then went to the right. And the way that he mapped that and the science behind it was such bad science, but because it pushed the climate change narrative, the IPCC and the UN and the intergovernmental bodies that are these unelected bureaucrats, they just keep propping up this thing that's been debunked by thousands of scientists, but you would never know it if you turn on the mainstream media. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, I think there's been so many economic incentives to also keep pushing it. So it's it's a big problem.
Al Gore has become a billionaire.
He was just here in Norway talking the same things. The world is on fire. Talking with our Norwegian bank and
it's so frustrating. Oh my gosh.
These Americans.
We're crazy people. No, but it's really hard because to debunk it requires so much time and effort. And again, the story, it's so sticky. It kind of maps on, like you said, it maps on to this human instinct of guilt. And so, of course, modern life would have this side effect, which is that the planet's burning. Like, of course, we should feel horrible for our consumption. Like, there's something about that with the way the human mind works that it fits really nicely. So, like, climate change is sort of this subconsciously held belief that, like, we should feel guilt and shame for just like being alive, and climate change is our sins coming back to get us or whatever. So it's really hard to counter it.
Yeah, it's really hard, and also it's hard because it's actually pretty easy for us to sacrifice something because we have it so good. So if we sacrifice something, the problem here in Norway is that when we get sacrifices that we have to do by law, it doesn't mean that I want to sacrifice that. So
do you have a lot of climate policies there?
Oh yeah, we have quite a lot. Right now it's mostly about traffic, so not being able to drive certain places, not being able to park. Yeah, it's actually travel restrictions.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Do people get frustrated with it, or they just go, oh, that's what we have to do?
Well, I think a lot of people actually do get frustrated, me especially. But I think there's a lot of apathy also. People just think we have to do it. We have to do it. It's just, this has already been decided. We can't stop it. We just need to do it. So I think that is kind of my mission, is to say that, no, we don't have to say yes. We can say no. We can ask why. We can ask, will it help? Because most often it will be no. It won't help.
It won't help.
So, yeah, and then I don't want to sacrifice anything. If
Yeah.
it won't help, I won't sacrifice anything.
And especially when
I
you look
wouldn't
at
like
how
to.
small
Yeah.
your country's so small. Like this idea that when China's just chugging along, doing all this stuff, the idea
Yeah.
that you guys ruining your economy or taking away people's freedoms to save the planet is not really
I,
like reality based.
I think it goes back to this every little action helps. And I
Yeah.
think that is also a lie. Every
Yeah.
little action doesn't help. I think this is just something that we say to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah. I agree
This
with
is
that.
kind of the questions that I try to reflect on, to speak to people, to see, will it help? Will it help if I do anything? And I can participate in some things. I don't want to throw things in the woods or in the mountains or in the streets here. I would like to have a clean, safe place, but
Right.
that's not the same.
Yeah, no, there's a difference between this conservation
Mm.
and honoring in the environment and having reverence for the environment and wanting to protect the planet, but then it kind of skews into this, well,
Mm.
we're gonna have to control you to do that, and you can't
Mm.
do this, you can't do that, and we're also going to pave over the countryside with solar, and then you now have really expensive gas, and so then it what's happened with the climate movement, it's totally lost its founding principles
Mm.
of maybe the 1960s when this
Mm.
environmental movements first started. There were a lot of things to fix, dumping chemicals into rivers and all that. And I think
Mm.
we did a really good job. And then it was almost like, well, now where do we go? We have all these nonprofits. We have a fundraising infrastructure. Like, what can we do next?
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's like death by 1,000 cuts for everyone too. And like how your lives get impacted.
Yeah. I would also like to say something about this UN, what's it called again in English? It's the sustainability goals.
Mm,
I think actually, if you read them in English, they are a little bit better than if you read them in Norwegian. I think a lot of things got lost in translation. But I like the numerations where you start with ending poverty.
mm,
And fixing climate change is actually the number 13 on the list
mm, mm.
instead. And I think that is a kind of a good thing, because there is education, there is
Yeah.
sickness and everything like this that is much more important to fix before. And actually also the direct translation for number 13 in Norway is ending climate change. So
Yeah.
we should end. We can't make a change, as no matter if it's natural or not. So I think that
Right.
the translation is wrong.
Yeah. It doesn't make there's so much there's so much delusion and then you're kind of just like, why is the climate changing so bad? Like, you could just argue like, let's go back to the premise here.
Hmm.
What's the big deal? Like,
Yeah,
we're doing fine. But
and
then
I
they
think
say,
that
well, there's a tipping point.
yeah, it's a tipping point, and there's a hockey stick.
Yeah. And it becomes like the thing is they don't have any evidence that it's been bad yet. They can't look at the last 30 years and go, this is bad, this is bad. So then now they have this something you can't prove false, which is a tipping
Mm.
point that we may reach one day. And
Mm.
how do you counter that? You can't prove that something that's never happened is false because there's a lot of propaganda and brainwashing is another way to put it.
Yeah. Um, I'm just waiting for one translation here. Yeah, I think people talk about climate and us being in some kind of bubble with an
Mm,
echo chamber and things like this. I think actually it's better to say that it's a fog, because you can't actually
mm.
see through what's happening, because you can understand something on the right, you can understand something on the left, but it's you can't see where it ties together. So I think it's more like a fog
I
than
love that.
a bubble.
I might use
So
that. I might use that.
sure,
I love that.
yeah,
It's such a fog. It's such a fog. And even
yeah,
just doing this stuff for so many years now, whether it was being in the climate movement for 5 years and now being out for 5 years, so almost 10 years, and only in the last year of just really studying and getting my confidence to go against the narrative, because there's so much societal pressure and there's so much groupthink to think a certain way. And going back to the Free Press, I'm so lucky that I started working there 3 years ago. Never even was on camera. I was not doing anything with the climate stuff. I just got hired there because I was a fan of my boss Barry. But the Free Press allowed me to live in such an environment that I started to get less concerned with the groupthink, less concerned about, well, what would people think, you know?
Yeah.
And so it gave me the bravery and the foundation to speak out. And so I'm hoping with my content that I can be a focal point for people who are in that fog where they're like, I don't know where to look. And I'm like, okay, well, now you can look at me and I'm going to help you break this down, because I don't really, I mean, no, that's not true. There's amazing people out here doing this stuff.
Of course, yeah.
So many, but it's so hard to even like find them if you're just in the group think. And so, yeah, but I love that idea of the fog. It's so true. And it's really hard to find your way through it.
It's really hard, and it's also, if you stick out too much, you will get, people will look at you the wrong way, and people think that you're crazy and you haven't understood anything, and you're just listening to misinformation.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hoping to do is do the same as you, create a foundation for people to actually dare to ask questions, to take a stance, to say their side, because I think this is the only way forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And how long have you been did you have a moment where you had an awakening on this, or have you always felt this way?
I've probably felt a need to say something for a long time. I've always looked at myself as a leader, and but it's not since, of course, the pandemic, when everything just went bonkers. It's then I just thought, okay, I have to just speak to people. I started this podcast just to get an excuse to talk to experts, scientists, to see what is actually happening, to make up my own mind, just not being told what to think. So, and it's been a fascinating journey, and I can't wait for more. And now, an English podcast with you as the first guest.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the coming years.
Yeah, I think so too. It's really needed. And I think people like you and me who are putting ourselves out there now are going to be leaders for the people who are thinking about this stuff in a year or two, right? It's just sort of this
I think so.
Opening up of like the lotus leaf where you have different phases. And so
yeah, and
Barry
also
was that
sure,
for me. Yeah. And then it's like, I will
making
be
sure
that
it's
for other people.
safe to say what you mean is actually really important, because I think it's been a long time when hasn't felt safe, because you're a bigot, you're a racist, or whatever.
Climate change denier.
Of course, or a science denier.
Yeah, a science denier.
Conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
When I'm joking, I'm saying that I don't do conspiracy theories. I only have conspiracy conclusions. So,
seriously.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. No, Lucy, thank you so much for joining.
Of course.
It's been a blast. I'm wishing you all the best as content manager for the Free Press, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm really jealous of this sunlight.
I know. I'm like, where is the sunlight? I was like trying to avoid it. There's just like one line.
Yeah, great job avoiding it.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah,
I can't wait for it to come out. All right, talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.